Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I expect this live stream to break completely because apparently we're live on LinkedIn as well now. One of the benefits of being one of the early adopters of this sort of technology. So, hello, LinkedIn. I don't know what's happening there with that, if that's even happening. Now,
I feel very professional.
Yeah, it's raised the tone already, isn't it? And to further raise the tone,
we can talk about.
Sorry, say again.
Does that change what we can talk about? Because, you know,
definitely. And we're actually supposed to have a tie on now, I believe. I think we're.
Does it mean I'll get a better job?
Oh, yeah, definitely. But what I have noticed, I've noticed a trend this week in live streaming, and that trend is to do puzzles. So I've got my puzzle ready to go here. It's a transport one with aeroplanes and everything. So, but I don't have an overhead camera, 32 buttons, and multiple ways of doing things. But other than that, hello, Dave.
Amateur,
I know. But it's 60 pieces. So, yeah, piece a minute. Then that'll get us through the hour. We'll be able to time the hour with this. Right. Enough of this nonsense. Let's get into this. Where shall we start? Shall we start with... We won't start with Philip because that's rude, but thank you very much for joining us, Philip. I'll let him suffer for a little bit. He deserves a bit of suffering. Garmin. Hidden GPS hijacking, or software hijacking, or services hijacking, or what do we think?
Ransomware attack. Ransomware attack.
Yeah. So what do we think?
It's interesting, isn't it? I don't know if the COVID situation has helped this along at all with people being out the office. You know, let's be honest, most companies have had to move people around in places that they've never done before, and that obviously changes your infrastructure if you're not used to it. But it's a bit of a mess, to say the least. And have they recovered yet? Have they got control back? Because I've not seen it today.
I believe the fitness trackers are back and working, and that's what caused most of the fuss and the world watched. But I don't think aviation is back yet, and that has big implications. Because if you've got an aeroplane with the big suite of Garmin stuff in the front, you've normally put a bit of cash down for all that and for all the associated services. So I should imagine they'd be a little bit annoyed. And I wonder what the situation, Evening Sky Train there, I wonder what the situation with the regulators is. What's the regulator going to say to somebody with a Garmin GPS fit now? Stay on the ground?
No, don't go outside jogging. You could get hit by a plane.
There we are. Yes.
It's a continuing, and it seems quite a basic attack in the sense of it's the encrypt the data. You've got to pay us lots of money, or we'll delete it, and then when you pay us lots of money, we'll delete your data anyway. Scenario. So it's a lose-lose for them on every level. It's got to be the biggest company I've heard of for a while that's had this sort of attack. I can't think of another one.
There's been over $7 billion, I think, scooped up, or damages done by these ransomware people. $7 billion is what it's cost. I'm thinking, I'm in the wrong job. I've got the wrong career. I should be moving to Russia and getting engaged in ransomware. It sounds like it makes you a lot of money. Look at all the organizations that have actually paid to get their files back. And from what I can gather, I was reading Ars Technica this morning, they got the decryption key indirectly, which probably means their insurance company paid the ransom people to get the key and gave it to the Garmin people to get them up and going again, because it would have cost them less to do that than to have to put up with their service outage.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, isn't it? It shows when we start connecting services up that it might not be the best plan. Stick and rudder, dead reckoning, as per your PPL.
Yeah. Well, the whole cloud thing exposes you to this. And when we look at what we're looking at with UTMs and things, because those universities in the UK, they got all done with ransomware too. There was a cloud provider, Black something or other, or board something or other. They got hit with ransomware, and a whole lot of teaching institutions in the UK, they were affected for quite a bit of time by this. So it's happening all over the place, and it's no such thing as perfect security. So as long as there are people interfacing with the technology, there's always a potential for someone to get in. So if we're going to have all the unmanned aviation controlled by UTMs, which are operating through a cloud, and that cloud gets disrupted, it's a single point of failure that could have huge consequences. We can't afford to have 8-year-old kids flying toys in their backyard because that's too dangerous. But imagine we've got thousands of drones delivering pizzas and all sorts of things, and the control system goes out for that. That's a much bigger risk. Can we afford that? I don't know that we can afford to take that single risk.
Ground them all. That's what I say. Put everything on the ground. Go back to horse and car. It's the only way. I see no future in this. No good will come of this. No good. No good. I know you've been very quiet on this subject, Philip, and you are a GPS expert, having just released your latest GPS. I almost tried like a proper segue then, which is almost. It's
Look, let's stick with the ransomware for a little bit. I actually think maybe some high-profile companies getting done like this might be a positive for everyone, because at some stage the authorities are going to have to take this sort of attack a little bit more seriously, realizing the implications of it to everyone. It's not acceptable that this sort of stuff is as hard to trace, that these organizations can, get a $10 million ransom that becomes practically untraceable. Somebody in some government somewhere knows exactly what's going on or is directly involved, dare I say. And we actually do need more action from governments. I mean, when it's grandma down the road that clicked the wrong button that loses all the grandkids' photos, everyone goes, "Oh, that's sad," and moves on. When it's something like this and it affects everyone's Fitbits or whatever, sorry, wrong company, they get all upset because it affects them a little bit more personally on their daily jog, because they're stuck because of COVID or whatever. That's a good thing. It makes more people involved, and therefore maybe there's more likelihood of people actually talking to the right authorities to say, okay, we need to change the law. There actually needs to be international consequences for stuff like this. If it is a state player doing things like this, we need to call them out. They need to, name and shame, and things need to be done.
It's a bunch of script kiddies in Russia, from what I gather, a bunch of organised mafia-type gang. But it's not like this is the first time. The Knoxville police got ransomware hit. The Texas County Sheriff got ransomware hit. Hospitals in the USA have been ransomware hit. It's not like this is a bigger profile than anything else. It's just the next in the line. So they've had plenty of warnings, and there should already be a massive movement to actually deal with the ransomware. But Russia, it's not that much of a well-policed area. It's a bit like China. I think you can get away with a lot as long as you don't annoy Putin in Russia.
But it's almost, it could easily be a military unit though, couldn't it? And a self-funding one. Hey, fantastic, extra cakes all around.
Well, North Korea would be into that.
Yeah, I mean, we just had our Prime Minister come on TV, feels like a lifetime ago now with all the daily COVID things, but, announcing that Australia had just had a major state player cyber attack. No particular state was named in this, and we'll keep away from that one. But it is something that is becoming more, that the public is becoming more aware of, and I think that's a good thing. People are more aware.
It's way cheaper than a cruise missile, isn't it? And you even get paid. You don't with it. Fire a cruise missile, it's gone. You paid all that money. Makes a big
and you don't get paid for supplying the FAA with video either. They don't pay anything.
That's been asked in the comments. They don't pay you anything for that video. That was a very cowardly thing they did to you there, Bruce. Just pulling the video down without a sorry. I mean, that at the very least was no sorry or a go bog off. But some form.
You don't have to apologise. If you're a government department, you don't have to apologise to anybody. Do I not know who they are? I mean, I bet they're talking to the CIA at the moment going, "Oh, this guy's embarrassed us, deal with him." And the CIA in New Zealand's going, "Oh, no, we've already got enough trouble from this guy. We're trying to shut it up, so get away."
But just imagine Sky Train there. Good evening to you. And Bruce is so right, UTM taking out. Could you imagine the chaos, all ATC shutting down? Now, just imagine you're some big airfield just to the south of London. It's Christmas time. It's a wet and stormy evening. And for some reason, one of your systems, your coffee machine goes down. And because you're in air traffic control, somebody rings up and says, "We have taken over your coffee machine." And that would be enough. You wouldn't need to take over the radars. You wouldn't need to take over the communications.
Gary,
in the office.
Yeah, you've gone around this in such a complicated way. You don't need to hack coffee machine. You just
do.
call up
That's
and
not-
say you saw a.
Yes. I defer to your expertise. You're exactly right. You don't need any. You just need a telephone. Here it is. Here's the one I used. Oh no!
And
So I flew a drone. Yes.
That can't be right, because I'm still reading in the media that there were drones at Gatwick. They would not lie to us.
No.
It's very sad. It's very sad.
And funny enough,
I mean, if you can't trust the BBC, who can you trust?
it does. That does come to a thing, doesn't it? Really, it does come. to
BBC
a
or the police. Yeah, you can't trust them either.
They're a great
And
band.
the police did come out. What was it, day 3 or something, saying, "I don't think there's a drone," and then they got slapped across the head. And yeah.
Well, there were drones on. Was it day 2 or 3? I can't remember. There were the
I
police.
remember which day that the police took out their police drones. Yeah.
There were their own gear there. Hello there, John.
But they weren't, because the reason, see, they had all that fancy stuff. See the pictures in the BBC of all like drone countermeasure stuff. I'm sure they had that. It was just keeping the drones away after the first day. Which
that's it.
Yeah.
$5 million. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So, talking about GPS, Philip, if I were to get myself, if I were to upgrade, hang on, look how well I keep everything. If I were to upgrade this, what GPS?
would it look like?
What sort of
You
purchase?
get the coal for that thing. Do they still make coal for those things?
Yes, they do. Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. They're all solar now, aren't they? So, Philip, you've got a new GPS. Tell us about your new GPS.
Well, look, it's a new GPS and it's not a new GPS. Basically, we have reskinned the Here Plus V2. What it is literally a Here Plus V2. We took away the safety button because, like many things, that word safety on that button is a bit of fake news. It's not a safety rated button, and the idea of having a button in the middle of a quadcopter that you push to turn the spinny knives off, not a great idea. It's been a debate that we've been having within the autopilot team and the extended team for I think since 2013, when we started building the Pixel 2 at the time. We were trying to decide what to do with this safety button, and I know we were under a lot of pressure from Chris and 3DR to eliminate it. As you'll notice on the Solo, it sort of wasn't there. Believe it or not, it was hidden. It's underneath the gimbal. If people could find it, there was still the safety button hidden there just in case we needed it. And it sort of hung around like a bit of a bad smell. We don't like it. We really don't like the word safety being associated with it. And anyway, so that gave us another opportunity, and that was to actually seal the case, because these things do tend to stick up the top. We are attempting to make it more waterproof. At the moment, it's water resistant. We're not making any more claims than water resistant until we have a little bit more experience on these matters of making things waterproof. But we have removed the barometer as such, because obviously if the case is sealed, a barometer is not much use to you there other than to give you really crappy results that would interfere with things. So we've taken 2 features away. We've given it the M8P module, which is the RTK module, and we've halved the price of the RTK module, basically. So it's actually less than half the price. So $125 US. The RTK module was $275. So we've dropped that big time. We've had it feels like forever of negotiating with U-Blocks. My very first meeting with U-Blocks post the old regime was to discuss the potential of this new M8P module that they were coming out with. Instead of making it a high-end thing, because it's just L1, putting it in the market where it needs to be down the bottom and saying, hey, how about we just make this standard and just make some level of RTK available to everyone. So that's it. So we've dropped that down to basically the price of our M8N that we had before, and that's the Here 3. The other thing we've done is we've now made the full full shift to CAN bus. There's a few people who said, why? And the reason for that is because this should have happened 6 years ago. IQC sucks on an aeroplane. It shouldn't be there. Autopilot is now mature enough with that to use it properly. PX4 is pretty much there too. So, yeah, it's getting easier and easier to use CAN every day, and it's safer. So there you go. There's the spiel.
I'll take two. Hey, you can waterproof them and use the barrow.
Yeah, look,
you don't have to. It doesn't have to be sealed because you've got the surface tension of water. If you make the holes small enough, the water will never get through because of its surface tension, but the air will flow through.
That's good in theory, but we've got to get a bit more experience with doing stuff like that to get it exactly right. Because,
So we'll be able to use this with the Ardu submarine software.
Oh, come on.
There is Ardu sub. It's there. There is Ardu sub.
There is Ardu sub. Ardu sub runs very well, and we do actually. There are actually existing barometers that work very well with Ardu sub. So yes.
But Bruce, if the people know there is a little hole for the GPS for the barometer, I'm sure someone will find a way to get better readings. Drilling down that hole to a bigger size. Come on.
Well, the splash drone works. Splash drone manager, they got a barrow and they've got a waterproof drone.
Yeah, what have they got? A balloon in there or something, don't they?
Yeah, I think there's a membrane of some kind here, which allows enough pressure to transport. Yeah.
Philip, is there plans for an external barrow? There are some limited applications where people, with sealed air, not completely sealed airframes, but larger airframes where you are putting everything under a canopy, and you do want to just get some better access on that.
Yeah, look, we've got an airspeed sensor that has been under the way for too long. That airspeed sensor will be more of an air data computer than just a plain airspeed sensor. That should give us an equivalent of an isolated external barometer. That's going to be good for fixed wing. As far as multicopters,
Don't worry, I don't believe in multi-rotors. Don't worry about that. We don't need to talk about them. They're a very small market. Not going to catch on.
Never take off.
Never
work. Never. Tell me more about the fixed wing, more precise.
Look, basically, one of the things with fixed wing is we tend to be using a single differential sensor that we mount somewhere and we run some tubes to, and we hope for the best. And sometimes they're calibrated well, and sometimes they're not. We have some people on the dev team that actually say, don't ever use an airspeed sensor because they're really good when they work, but when you stuff them up, they can cause you to crash, which is sort of true. And
I never use them.
I love them. I love them. The planes do fly a lot better with them. Dead reckoning works better if something goes wrong. Not that it will. But I mean, what could go wrong with GPS?
Yeah, exactly.
Ask the Italians; they'll tell you.
Yes, probably moving down the track, but it's a dead reckoning's obviously a nice point. But if your IMU is not very good, and you're using mobile phone IMUs and all that sort of stuff, then there's limitations to that as well, which there's solution for. But a nice airspeed sensor and a good compass, you can actually dead reckon with autopilot quite well. So well that it's purposefully not optimized. Yeah.
And the this new external barrow, I'm trying to pull stuff out of you. This new external barrow will be subject to lots of drift over a longer flight.
Barrows are always going to be subject to drift, like they are on a full-size aircraft.
Sure.
So on a full-size aircraft, you use your Q&H numbers that you get from local airfields, and you adjust accordingly. As long as everyone's talking the same language on altitude, we're sort of all good. If everyone, obviously the CAA in New Zealand and CASA in Australia, FAA, CAA UK, whatever, they're all really committed to safety in aviation, and as such, they've mandated that that ADS-B gets used across the board within general aviation and commercial aviation to avoid mid-air collisions, which kill so many people each year. Sorry. I thought we're having this in 5 years' time. Maybe it will be
25 years.
You know, and what can I say? We try.
Yeah, I know. I was sort of having a semi-argument with someone on LinkedIn about this very subject, and
tag me. I'll enjoy that one.
Yeah, well, it's hard to sort of get them, but they're making very fair and valid points about low-flying military aircraft. And the chap used to be the boss of a Chinook squadron, so best show him the due.
Can I just suggest one thing? That low-flying military aircraft fly in designated low-flying military zones during civilian non-war times, and we're not talking about during wartime. Obviously, in a wartime situation, yes, we understand.
Go straight for the jugular. I'm trying to be a bit kinder than that, Philip. You just go straight for the jugular.
Hey, in New Zealand, there's a mailing list. If there's going to be some low-flying military aircraft, you join the mailing list and they notify you in advance with the flight path and the time and the date, so you can avoid those areas. I mean, that's pretty sensible stuff.
The only one in Australia that's a legitimate one that flies low and turns off the ADS-B is the police helicopter during covert operations.
They deserve everything they get then.
But they're so bloody noisy that
you
know they're there. So
I think it's more about the perceived risk and danger rather than the actual risk or danger. And I made the point.
Speaking of which,
go on then.
We've seen all the manned aviation crashes this week. Planes crashing into apartment buildings, crashing into control towers, crashing into the streets of Brazil. My goodness, if any one of those had been a drone, can you imagine the furor that would have gone?
Yeah, but nobody died, so I mean, I'm sorry.
People did die, and some of them
did die, so therefore it's not a concern. It's only
it didn't really happen. None of those happened because pilots have skin in the game, so they take extra care.
Yeah, but that's okay because Airbus has got that under control now.
Oh yes, they did. That was that today? Was it the 350? What was it? I can't remember.
No, the 1000. The 1000 is they've done fully autonomous taxi, takeoff, and landing. Because Airbus has an impeccable safety record for autonomous flight demonstrations, and
if they could just get them under 250 grams, they'll be sweet.
Exactly.
Yes. Well, they are. Don't forget, Airbus and Boeing are currently inventing the whole genre. It's happening right now and being brought to you by big business.
On that topic. I was very impressed on LinkedIn. I don't know if any of you guys saw, but Boeing actually acknowledged the incredible work that RF Design has been doing. You guys would all be familiar with RF Design in Queensland, with a project up there that I won't go into too much detail. You can look up on LinkedIn, Boeing and Queensland. Just that's probably enough to find the stuff. But it was really good to see them actually acknowledge a external partner in the incredible work they're doing there that involves some interesting autopilots.
Oh, so not the Scan Eagle stuff, some other work then?
No, this is really cool. This is multiple fast jets, and it's pretty cool.
No, okay. All right. Well, we should look out for that. LinkedIn viewers, you can probably find it. Manned Aviation Crazy Week. It's definitely been a crazy week, Mark. It's been I don't know what the death toll is, and considering that manned aviation is sort of subdued because of the current human malware situation, there are managing to be quite a few cracks exposed. I mean, how that thing got in the tower, I do not know. That was quite spectacular. Mentioned in the comments earlier, I need to go back to give him some credit. Dan Cassidy, the other GPS thing, because it's GPS week this week. Ligado Networks. I see that the aviation press has finally caught on and realised the implications of this. Bruce, you're the radio man, so I've given you no time to prepare this. Whose fault is this? Who are you going to blame? Should we just blame Louis?
It's the FCC for granting the license, because it was only ever designed, that L-band was only designed for space transmission, which means very low power levels on the ground. So you can have very closely placed frequencies, because the signal levels are so low, the receivers can quite accurately pull out the signal they want. They've given them license for terrestrial broadcasts, which means you're going to be within sometimes hundreds of meters of a transmitter. So the very, very weak GPS signal is going to be swamped by this adjacent terrestrial signal, and it's going to cause all sorts of strife. But what I think is happening here is Legato have gone out. I don't think they're going to use these frequencies. What they've done is they've got license for them, and they're then going to use that to get money out of somebody by saying, well, we'll surrender them but for a price, or whatever, once things start going wrong, whatever. I think it's more of a political, more of a tactical, strategic move than an actual intention to use those frequencies.
Goodness me, I knew you'd come up with a sensible suggestion. So say again, Philip?
It's like a defensive patent.
Yeah.
I mean, they know if they do something that causes a GPS signal loss that can be traced to them, that is even slightly involved in a road traffic accident or a jogger running across a road and getting the wrong directions in a park or something in the US, they know they're going to get sued to kingdom come. So I do tend to agree that there's politics and stunt factor. I mean, how much publicity have they got out of this? Yeah. Would we even know who this company was if it wasn't for this? So
yeah, it's now corporate asset. But when you value the company, this license or this spectrum allocation is a hugely valuable piece of corporate asset. So it brings the value of the company right up. And so when they go out looking for money to do something like a new water feature in the foyer, that's where they'll be able to claim the value.
And the other area that this band is very valuable to is the snake oil industry. That would be my one concern of their use of it is all these people that are currently using illegal snake oil equipment to try and bring down drones. Good luck bringing down one of ours, you silly idiots. It's just, they're not allowed to transmit on those bands. If they do, they're breaking so many federal laws in most countries. But if all the
FCC should fine them $2.8 million like they did with Hobbyking, huh?
Like they did with Hobbyking, exactly. And that's been coming down about it. But I've said it before. When I was at Farnborough, and the bloke showed in 2010, and the bloke, or was it 2012? I can't remember whichever one it was. But the bloke, they had one of these radar anti-shooty downy things, had a big camera, passive radars, this, that, all the other, and all the buttons. It says 2.4, 5.8. There's big buttons with all that on it. And I said to him, but how can you just, and it said, and one that said GPS. I said to him, how can you throw the switch? How could you throw? Because at the time they had the thing pointing out to the east. I said, you're pointing straight at Heathrow Approach. How could you throw the switch on any of these? How will it magically stop the radio at wherever the target is? The drone's that far away. The radio signal will stop exactly
inverse square law. Inverse square. By the way, do you know the Hobbyking thing? I bought a piece of FPV gear off Hobbyking, and I was shocked and surprised to discover one of the broadcasting frequencies you could use for the FPV transmitter, a 1 watt FPV transmitter. It would broadcast on 1.09 gigahertz.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you can understand why the FCC got a bit, nasty about it.
It's an interesting topic from the point of view of this isn't something that snuck up and bit them overnight. I mean, I remember having discussions when I was working for a particular tech giant in the US, in the Bay Area, maybe Berkeley, where we were discussing products we were building.
They had 3 companies there, didn't they? Aren't there 3 technology companies there?
Something like that. Yeah. 3 doctors. Yeah.
Lily drone.
Yeah. And we were having a discussion about products that we would do, and there's pressure from the community, as hasn't stopped, for a new version of the Minim OSD. And people keep asking me, when are we going to come out with one? It's like, you can buy them for $4 or $5 off Banggood. I can't even buy the chips for anywhere near that. So enjoy Banggood. Why aren't we going to build a new one? And the simple answer back then was because on analog, to get a decent signal to be able to use it in a practical way was just too difficult within the law. And at the time, we had to operate within the law, and we choose to operate within the law, which is actually really hard for business when you're in an industry where operating within the law isn't the normal.
So you wouldn't steal someone's video footage then?
I wouldn't steal. No. That would be something. I mean, imagine if a federal organisation did something like that.
I don't think they would.
They wouldn't, and obviously they wouldn't do something from New Zealand, because it would just be so obvious with that weird, wacky-shaped wing that could only be New Zealand footage.
You've got to admit, though, that obviously, who worse could they have taken it from? I mean, of all of the people on YouTube in the world, who could they have chosen?
They're just troublemaker down in New Zealand.
Yeah, are they going to run out of feet or bullets first? Yeah.
Do convicted felons have rights, video rights? Do you still own the copyright to that when you're inside in jail? I mean, prison? I mean,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. It's
aren't you declared something terrible for trying to build ballistic missiles or something?
Well, you're public enemy number one. Just go look at my Wikipedia page. It's full of convictions.
You don't have any rights. It's all good.
No, we only have freedoms, and they can be taken away whenever it chooses. The government chooses to.
And I mean, you can try claim that you're a natural man thing, but only when you're in the natural.
Yeah. No one wants to see that.
No.
That's on my other channel on the other site.
Not the beauty channel either. Yeah, we can't have that sort of. We're on LinkedIn now, gentlemen. We're on LinkedIn now.
Sorry.
Come on.
Sorry.
Does that mean we can't use memes? Do they have memes on LinkedIn? Do they people upload memes? Or is it far too serious for me?
That is like the biggest no-no on LinkedIn. A meme. Yeah.
It's a very, very, very serious place. So what have we taken away from that? We've taken away from all of this that GPSs are rubbish, but they've got cheaper. Is that what we've said? Basically it. I think that's probably basically it. But we can't be hopping and skip away from all manner of navigation that doesn't rely on GPS. The good people at Skydio don't rely on GPS. They
could use navigational beacons. Have anyone thought of that? Putting up nav beacons?
Some sort of radio beacons.
Radials and
send out some sort of signal, and you can perhaps hone in.
Fly down the beam. Oh.
Wait, Gary. They do
they have GPS?
Skydio.
Yeah.
Otherwise, imagine flying in middle of the night.
I don't think the commercial domestic one doesn't fly at night.
It doesn't fly. It doesn't have. It doesn't have a compass. There's no mag sensor in the Skydio 2, and it won't let you fly after dark. So
no, not the
takeoff.
The new one is quite capable.
And by the way, theoretically, you don't need a compass. You can do without the compass. It's not easy. Lots of maths involved to allow the navigation without the compass, but you don't need a compass. It would be a good thing if we could throw away the compass for good. We are already doing something for that. Autopilots. But until we can throw away those pesky little compasses, it's
funny. I had a message today, and I think the mag sensor is still our number one Achilles heel on most multi-rotors. If you look at IMUs, GPS, Barrows, but it doesn't really crash. If I've looked at hundreds of DJI logs of these, and the telltale is compass is the number one thing that causes people to lose control, or I should say, not
multi-rotors
expect. The reality is, anyone with who's used to flying an aircraft with a lack of compass doesn't tend to have a problem. But I think that's probably the one bit of tech we haven't seen any improvement in, and what we've seen improvement is how we handle the data, but the actual sensors are not really any better today.
Yeah, look, there are some good sensors. The RM3100 is a nice sensor. I mean, there's a few people using that. That can be plugged onto autopilot pretty easy as an external unit. we kept getting asking questions why we're not building a module using that. And the simple fact of the matter is it's bloody expensive for a compass, and we're heading towards not wanting to use compasses at all. And that's where we're investing.
Magnetometers can be quite expensive. I've been working with a university group that they bought a magnetometer for 20,000 euros. So, yeah, that is wonderful. Has to fly, has to be hanging from the drone by 25 meters. So, lots of.
It'd be great for navigation, Louis.
Huh?
It'd be great for doing a selfie. You could have the drone up here. You could have the magnetometer there. Then you drop the camera down even lower. That way, the drone could be 30 meters away from where you're taking the photo.
Yeah, lots of selfie opportunities there, but no, they can be very expensive, good magnetometers. And even so, even with the best magnetometer, try to fly nearby a power line, a 400 kV power line, or all hell breaks loose. So we need the Skyview approach, the visual, and the inertial from GPS, dual GPS orientation.
You don't actually even need visual or dual GPS to do compassing correctly with no compass. So watch your space.
Yeah,
watching.
It's solving the problem, isn't it? That most issues aren't the sensor's faulty or the sensor's bad. It's the shift in mag field at takeoff. You have an influence on the ground which is different, and then as soon as the aircraft takes off, and the classic I've seen in the DJI logs, for instance, is always that. I haven't actually looked at this in autopilot to see how it behaves, but DJI have a certain percentage of shift in aircraft you're not changing, but mag you're shifting dramatically, and above a certain point it just goes, I'm not having it, and rather than actually enter ATTO attitude, it actually goes into TBS and it does this horrible thing. And the interesting thing on the DJI is if you actually just do a couple of fast yaws, you can actually get it to fall out of it and actually behave to get it on the ground. But it is that it's not the sensors are bad, it's that people not knowing what's in the ground below them, and that's the problem, isn't it?
Yes. It explains why my toilet bowl is full of drones. But give me an idea for a video. Actually, I might get someone to fly a Phantom or something. I'll strap a big Neodymium magnet on my mini quad and fly overhead and just see what happens. It'll be really interesting. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to ask Bruce, does your ankle bracelet affect them much?
No, that's just a receiver. It doesn't transmit. Well, it doesn't matter.
The GPS on that anyway. So
it's the last thing we require a user to do, isn't it? If we look at now, we don't. The GPS sorts itself out. The barrows sort themselves out. For the most part, the IMUs, really these days we're not even calibrating them anymore. However, the compass is the one thing that still requires fairly good use.
Not really. Well, if you're running latest autopilot, you can now do a takeoff. Without the compass calibrated, and do a in-flight calibration.
In-flight compass calibration.
Yeah, and that works quite nicely. We also have a thing. If you take off from the ground and you've got Rio underneath or rebar or whatever it's called in whichever country, in the concrete, which is obviously going to mess it up, or you're taking off a ship deck or something like that, it gets to a certain height and then it goes, that was probably bullcrap. So we'll realign that and sort it out from there. And it's smart enough to figure that out. Sometimes that doesn't go to plan. There's still some little hiccups there, but overall, Autopilot's doing quite nicely on compass management.
Autopilot's ahead of selling little Autopilot fridge magnets that people can stick on the side of their drones.
The battery hatches on many drones, those little magnetic clips, they'll be flying along fine. You'll lose that, and you've already compensated for the fact that it's there. And the hatch falls off. That's actually
I thought you were meant to use that. I thought you were meant to use that self-adhesive magnet tape to hold the compass in place. That's what I was told to use.
It's not like what was the Karma where the whole battery falls off.
It falls out.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Get rid of the battery.
3 years ago was that. I think my NDA is finished on that one.
Oh, go on then. Yeah. Is your NDA finished? Or how many years did your NDA last?
I can't remember.
Just say
I better check before I make any comments.
It's expired, Philip.
It's expired. It's expired, Philip. Exactly. Yes.
Pretty sure it has.
Yeah, well, tell us about a completely different drone company then.
Actually,
Yes.
look, I'll tell you the good news out of Karma, and that's Skydio.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like at the end of the day, those guys, if you want to know where the potential of Karma was, then you're seeing it at Skydio. So
I think the good thing out of Karma is that any other drone company can say, we don't make a Karma. That's the good news for them.
They actually proved how hard it is.
Smart enough not to use that word as the name of a product.
Yeah, it was a very bad plan, wasn't it? I think I might even have written
It's
a
going
post
to bite you on
about
the
that
ass.
the other day.
Yeah.
Yes. Ooh, that's hopeful. That's very, very hopeful. And actually, how many, just out of interest, is that what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago now?
Oh,
What's that screw all there, Philip? What's that? Is that a screw?
For magnets. That's where you put magnet.
Has it got RGB LEDs in it? Because Ian would love one if it does.
yes, it does have RGB LEDs in it. All of our products have RGB LEDs in them.
I'll put it inside my
like they
PC.
circle
first.
round and flash and go
Yeah.
bright and dim, and
We've got the property LEDs for that one. Have you not seen the video that's floating around that Peter Hall did with our Profi LEDs, where he's playing Pong on the aircraft? I figured that would be good if you could have two transmitters for COVID. You could hover it over a middle backyard, and two neighbours could play Pong.
I'm not doing my puzzle. Come on, you just keep talking. I realised I'm doing my puzzle.
Yeah, let's ignore Gary. Hobby King.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Hobby
Because
King.
what I do is, because when we saw Ian doing that, we just saw the top of his head. I've got to recreate that in the way of famous YouTubers. You just saw the top of his head like this. That's what you saw. There we are.
He was going
It's real puzzle, look. Straight from here through.
How many chairs did you sell with that puzzle video?
Any cheese? I wish.
is that the beginner's puzzle, Gary? Is that the beginner's one with just one piece?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was more worried. I didn't actually.
It'll take you a while.
This is the one-piece version of Ian's puzzle.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think Philip started panicking. Hold on a minute. Has he actually got a complete one there? Because there was a point of me thinking, actually, am I missing one? And then I realised it was actually a bit narrower than I was going for.
Do you ever take the risk of buying a second-hand jigsaw puzzle? You know, in those second-hand shops, and there's a box of 1,000 pieces, and thinking, is there?
No.
We felt, yeah. I won't go into that story right now. That's a bit of a sore topic in this household at the moment, and it may have been my fault. But anyway,
Did you lose this?
did I know? I bought the puzzles. Yes. Well, sorry, Ian. What were you going to talk about?
Yeah, I was just going to say Hobby King. The Hobby King
Hobby
thing.
King.
Yeah, you know, Bruce Venture. It's in. You know, I've just been looking now, actually, while you guys were talking. 4 years ago, I was probably ordering from Hobby King fairly regularly, and I've just gone through the site, and I cannot find anything that I'd want to order from there right now. You know, even some of the stuff I'd need, I've just looked at and thought, well, I wouldn't get it there, I'd get it elsewhere. I do wonder what is left for them, the way things are going, especially if the US rules come into play, because, Bobby, all those aircraft are a no-go. For starters, everything they're selling is a no-go. You know,
there's the three things that killed Hobby King. First one was that they updated their website and it turned into rubbish. The new website was rubbish. You couldn't find anything. There was no, if you didn't have exactly the right search thing, it wouldn't find anything. The second thing was the mini quad craze, because they just didn't get into it. They were always like a year behind, and with mini quads, you've got to have the latest gear. They're still selling Naze 32s at Hobby King, I think. They've always been way behind the 8 ball on mini quad stuff. So when people started going to mini quads, Hobby King disappeared off their radar. And the third thing is shipping. It used to be a wide range of shipping options, and you could get really cheap shipping, like $14 for DHL up to 500 grams. It was great. But now I can't get anything from Hobby King because we don't ship to your country. We can't ship this, can't ship that's too big, it's too small, it's got lipos. So people have just said, too hard. And then Banggood came along next to free shipping, and they ship within years. It's great. So there's been so many other new options. And the mini quad market has produced a lot of innovation, a lot of rapid change, and Hobby King is just too big, can't keep up. So I don't think I've bought anything off them for maybe 3 years. Ever since I went to buy something and used my points, and for some reason my credit card wasn't the right flavor or something, so they wouldn't accept it. So they didn't charge my credit card, but they kept my points. And it was about $60 worth of points. And I thought, blow that for a joke. So I haven't bought anything off them since.
I've just put in the comments because people are going, "Whoa, this fine, it's all new, 2018, dear viewer, 2018. It was in SES News. That's when we first started reporting it." But anyway,
but it's even before then, because I mean, heck,
it was. There was one before.
Radio in December 2015, and we were discussing this from when I.
That was another thing.
Yeah,
but this whole thing it's a bit hypocritical, isn't it? Because you can't buy. Hobbyking got fined for selling stuff that was enabled people to break the law, run on the wrong frequencies and power levels that were not acceptable, right? So they got a $2.8 million fine. But you can go into the Ford dealership and buy a car that will do 3 times the speed limit. How does that work?
I think we all different regulations, different authority. So.
Yeah.
How many people have been killed by an FPV video transmitter operated at twice the legal power limit versus a car running at twice the speed limit?
Bruce, have you seen the Boeing versus the FCC thing on ground radar? Like, the backing up radar and stuff we have on our cars. Boeing wanted to put that on the landing gear and the wings of their aircraft so that when they're taxiing around the ground, they could have alerts for what's going on at the wingtips near vehicles or poles or any of that sort of stuff. They wanted to have some ground radar because they can't turn their air radar on the ground. It's too powerful. And they wanted that ground radar. And the FCC said no, because it's only certified for ground use and your aircraft can fly. And they said, we only want to use it on the ground. It will only turn on once the wheels are down on the ground, squat switches are done, and the FCC still won't let them do it. I mean, I haven't followed this up for probably 3 years. Maybe things have changed in the last 3 years, but the FCC is a difficult nut to crack. We wanted to, back at 3DR days, we wanted to put radar on the Solo. We had all sorts of cool collision avoidance stuff we were looking at using radar, but we were never going to get it past certification was the problem. It wasn't that the tech didn't exist. It's dealing with it.
Well, that would have saved Air New Zealand a fortune because they just rammed one airline into another on the ground while they were moving it around, and it's broken the tail off and things. It's terrible. It's a collision. There must have been a drone involved somewhere.
I'm sure there was.
But it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Your aviation regulators are slightly scary, but your radio regulators, no, they're scary. They have power. They have power hardwired in from the 1930s. And they have very big sticks that they can use, and they have all the gear. So, yeah.
And I always keep an eye out for those little detector vans and turn my television off when they go past.
Absolutely.
Ofcom in the UK are the black monks. They can literally make you disappear. It's baby eating bishop time. It really is. They knock on your door. It really is. They are the most powerful government organisation, as far as I'm aware, from a legislation point of view, in the UK.
Second only to the tax department.
No, not even that. No. Ofcom, just we can.
You're really selling the UK, guys.
It's
all of a sudden ACMA is looking like saints.
But it was all from when old Auntie was the only thing that was roaming around, when the BBC was king of the castle and license money, and they literally gave them the powers to kick people's doors in, turn your television over, stab your granny, and
BBC license.
Yeah,
again, I'll pull the Farnborough showing off ticket out again. But when I flew in 2010 at Farnborough, I had to go not just the JR in the UK, which I think was McGregor was running the JR radios, had a JR radio. The Ofcom asked JR in Japan. They had to go to Japan for the exact specs of the radio, and they wanted all sorts of stuff for them, so I could just chuck a wing in the air at Farnborough. They went to Japan, or they didn't go to Japan, but they asked Japan. They were all powerful, and then there were people with Hobbyking radios there. But anyway, moving on very swiftly. RGCat. Someone said Red Wing Drones. RGCat. Yes, I believe that is the RGCat profile. Prototype running around with Philip there. So what else? RGCat.
RGCat, yes.
Yes.
RGCat would be in Japan. That would have to be Randy's cat. Oh.
No, but we already have a walking robot on the GSOC program, so you might see a autopilot powered cat sooner rather than later.
Let's start with Archie Dog. It's going to be a lot easier than Archie Cat. Archie Cat has a way of sort of twisting its body in weird sort of ways.
So you're forgetting that we have a trick on our sleeve, so we can always treat it.
If we got him in on this call and gave him the task, he'd have it done in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Get it involved in Outback Challenge. It'll happen.
Yes, it needs a cat.
It needs a cat.
It needs a cat. Absolutely.
So
did Dawn Aerospace? Dawn Aerospace. What have you got to do with that, Bruce? Is that your company? Let's put that.
No, it's not. It's a collab between New Zealand and Dutch little company. They came out of the woodwork at the beginning of the year and claimed they were going to produce a space plane. And we all know how well wings work in the vacuum of space, but producing a space plane. And they put a video up showing their first one. This is the second one, but the first one. So this was their plane that was going to take a payload to the edge of space using the jet engine, and then a rocket would take it a bit further. It was it looked like a store-bought RC model jet with a Roman candle on the back. And this was, so our government said, oh, this looks unlikely to succeed. Let's throw taxpayers' money at it like we did with the Martin jetpack. And that's exactly what they did. They threw a huge lump of taxpayers' money at it. And Callaghan Innovations, which is an old boys network where if you know the right people, they throw money at you. They threw some money at it as well. And so now they flew this model jet around a bit and got some video and stuck it up. And people said, wow. And now they've got to the next one, the version 2, which is a bigger RC model plane. They're still nowhere near delivering on the promises they've made. And they raised over $3 million in the private venture capital space to carry on with the thing. But I mean, this whole thing of using a plane to get to the edge of space, I think the X Prize was won by someone who proposed that, and it's not a new concept, and they haven't seemed to have brought anything new to the the equation. So I'm wondering what's happening here. They seem to be a lot of 3D renderings and all the usual stuff. So I think they're another player in this. We would like to do this, throw lots of money at us, and once we've finished the water feature in the foyer, we might do something. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. It could be maybe they're going to change the world with these space planes. I just tend not to think they will.
Got an opinion on it, Bruce?
New Zealand's doing great with reusable rockets. I love the recovery method that the New Zealanders use for rockets. Just fly along with a helicopter and pick it out of midair. And
that's not new. NASA were doing that. They tried that back in the 70s. Pulling, they had. In fact, some of the first spy satellite stuff was recovered.
Or is that?
Huh?
But NASA stopped doing it.
But I think the US military were doing it with the spy satellites. The first spy satellites they launched had cameras on board with film, and they would come down on a parachute and they'd bring a helicopter in and or a plane and scoop it up so it didn't get wet in the water.
Yeah. Hercules. Yeah, with the big probe on the front. Clang! Come in and then pull it up out the back. And they use that's the same system they use for hoiking the blokes off the dinghy with the balloon. I can't remember what it was called. I saw it at an air day once and I thought, I wouldn't do that.
It would be a scary ride.
It would be a very, very, and just imagine all the way as you're getting winched up, wondering if the cable was going to snap or the winch was going to foul or
with the Hercules, you got those 4K tel minces on the front there, slice, dice, and julienne as you go through. That'd be no fun.
Yeah, at least the winching worked better once it hooked.
Yeah, and of course, let's keep talking. Just keep talking.
Didn't they use old biplanes? The mail, the email, didn't they have mail on a stick hanging out, and they had the biplane with a hook, and it would pick it up as they flew through back in the very early barnstorming days? Yeah.
Yeah, well, back in the early days of bush aviation, where was it down in South America? The missionaries down there used to fly around in a circle and drop a basket out on a long rope, and then they could control exactly where it dropped down, and then they drop people down in it, and then they got eaten. Whoops.
I'm just gonna pulling the rope.
You made me remember. Do we all remember this? Way back when, pull up a sandbag. Was it this one? Remember that? Remember that one when the
Yes.
When the Hercules in Afghanistan thought it would decided it would have a go at some formation flying with an RQ-7, and got in, and the RQ7 was in its circuit. Was it Shadow? What's an RQ7? Was it whatever it is? Was doing its automated circuit. Of course, the operator had no idea to look behind you, and when it turned, the Hercules ran into it. So that's a drone manned aircraft midair. From what year was that? That was
Gary. I sent you a link to that video of that Dawn Aerospace plane. You might want to share. It's
all right.
I think that so we can decide whether this is truly a space plane or not.
All right. Should we watch?
Just talk amongst yourselves while he gets it up.
Yeah. Maybe sometime. I'll put the link in.
We'll take a look at Ian's chair while he's putting that up.
Yeah,
nice chair, Ian. You haven't reviewed that, have you?
Oh, Ian, we've lost your audio, I think. You still there?
He's never there.
Yeah.
He's never there.
Yes. I said Gary can't afford the advertising on this chair.
You're selling space on the chair now.
It's a space chair.
A space chair, exactly.
Let's hope it doesn't give its own water feature.
They always take the mickey out of my chair. It's a perfectly normal chair. It's just a chair. It's nothing
it's what
special.
You call revenue.
It looks a bit worn on the edges there.
Look at what Louis got.
Oh,
Louis, you make me happy.
You got a solo. You got a solo.
It is.
Got a gimbal.
He brings it out now and then. They should have put one on the original
Yeah,
solo.
the gimbal came out this year.
Brand new.
And GoPro still won't let us release the gimbal code.
No, and by the way,
Full permission, but we have to get GoPro's permission.
It's GoPro, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah.
It's GoPro.
by the way, barely new with alpha battery flown.
There you go.
And all the legs still on.
Is the last container of those gone now? It must be, because there was a container kicking about, wasn't there? Dare anyone talk about
two brand new ones in the shed, still in boxes.
They might be worth something one day. Put them on
Maybe.
eBay, as a collector's item. Yeah.
I could do with picking one up again. I had one for a period. Just looking
still
on
see
eBay.
people posting that they bought a Karma and what should they do, don't you? And I've bought this and I've bought that. And
I do feel sorry for the ones picking up Karmas because at least with Solo, we've got Open Solo 4.0. We've got continued work happening with Solex. We've obviously, it can run a Cube Orange. It can run current ArduPilot on the original Cube if you want, substandard ESCs. It can still do all of those sort of things. There's people that have put the latest GoPros on them and Wi-Fi'd them in, and there's still modding can happen because it's ArduPilot. But the Karma, there were too many lawyers involved, and so there's no way. Well, I mean, we actually had it. We had a hackathon with Tridge, and in one night I had sitting in a hotel room with Jonathan Challenger, Angus Pert, and Jeff Wurzbach. And we were in a hotel room, and then we were calling back to Tridge, and we had ArduPilot flying Karma in one night. But we got shut down by their lawyers, and we weren't allowed to do it anymore. So Karma would have a potential life, but now it's just a brick.
Can the software, though, Philip, stop the battery falling out? That's the question.
The batteries don't fall out anymore. That was fixed. So, yeah.
Only once.
Only once. Yeah, we haven't heard the one thing about the Skydio that does worry me is that magnetic back. Go on.
Yes.
Your problem with the falling batteries is a feature. Look at it. At least it won't fly away. So,
you working for DJI or what? That's DJI.
Yeah, but it reduces the weight.
Everyone's got their own little feature.
It is interesting, Gary.
The dead turtle. That was their thing. Perfect landing, and then DJI's in the original one used to do the whole wee.
Yeah. Well, at least there's
wee.
Why didn't Solo skip camera integration like DJI P3 or P4 was a budget issue? I suppose that question is an interesting one because if you think about when we designed Solo, P3 didn't exist.
Yeah.
So the whole thing of cameras on the bottom was the way to go. And the reason that DJI actually went to an integrated camera is because some stupid camera company that they were using at the time decided to sue them for using the accessory port, which allowed DJI to use the GoPro cameras, and that basically killed GoPro as the camera of choice for drone users, which was the most stupid legalese crap. And it's the same for solo. The reason that we couldn't do certain things with the camera is because it took us a year to negotiate with GoPro to allow us to use that stupid little plug on the back. They've got patents on this, that, and the other, and they wouldn't let us use it. And it's like, with the Cube, we encourage people to make carrier boards. We want people to do that because when they make a carrier board, they're going to use our Cube. That's a really good thing. And GoPro had this stupid idea that they would corner the accessory market and kill themselves.
It is funny
remember
though,
all
isn't
the
it?
Martin. Remember, Ian. Remember how he was. Remember they were so up themselves. I'll put it no other way. They were so up themselves back then. Then it was just ridiculous.
It is funny though, isn't it? That trajectory that GoPro set DJI on created the monster that they are today. Because if that hadn't have happened, it was interesting that they forced them into a corner, which they reacted to, and just it's interesting to see how it fundamentally changed the industry. What's more worrying though is GoPro managed to screw 2 drone companies over and still mess up their own one.
So to keep things in perspective, at the same time, the Solo was potentially going to be DJI's product. So the negotiations at the time were, 3DR and GoPro were negotiating to work together on this. And a certain person at GoPro decided that they wanted all the glory and they wanted it to be the GoPro Solo by, with 3DR inside or something like that. There was all these negotiations back and forward, and big heads got involved as they were. And so instead of a company that was quite good at cameras working with a company that was quite knowledgeable on drones, collaborating and taking over the industry, which they had every capability of doing, they both threw it over to DJI, and well, the rest is history.
Jeremy Huey's asking questions. I'll put it up there, and I feel this is one for Ian because Ian hasn't spoken enough about this topic this week. In fact, it's Ian's favorite topic of them all. Ian, any thoughts?
I think I've said enough on this, but yeah, it's not bloody good enough. And I say this as someone who's been lucky to have been involved in some of the testing over the years. I've someone who's like, I've helped out. I've been involved in various things over the years. I've tested all sorts of stuff. I've been very privileged that people have been very kind to share things with me over the years. I'm someone that likes to get involved. Anyway. But at the end of the day, they've been done for this crap before. We had the J-hooks issue within iOS 3 years ago. And again, today, we've got the same thing. But what really annoyed me was not the fact they held their hands up, but the fact they went on the offensive with this one. And tried to say they've put a backdoor in there to prevent users from hacking the software so we can provide them a downloadable app. And you're going, hold on, anyone who's using a hacked app, I think they're pretty knowledgeable enough to know don't go near the actual official one because that's not what you want. So providing a backdoor to download an app off their own server or any other third-party server that they choose to push you to is nonsense. Then blaming a third-party plugin, not them. They said, we just put the plugin in there. It's not our fault. It's got security issues. Well, if you're going to bundle a plugin in with your app, you better make sure it's bloody good enough for people to use and it's not going to compromise their device. And that stands for everyone. That isn't DJI specific. I think we would all agree that if you're going to put software as part of something, if there is a problem with it, then you need to deal with it. And it was just, this is something that it's like any other bug. Well, it isn't. it's compromising people's devices. The reality is it doesn't matter for most users. Most people don't have sensitive data on their phones that we particularly care about. I don't care. They can see whatever's on mine. But rather than come out and say, like Apple, if you take Apple are really good at pushing out how important data privacy is. And DJI, on the one hand, like to say that they are squeaky clean, we do nothing wrong, yet they go on the offensive when issues are found. All they had to do was hold their hands up and say, you know what, this isn't good enough. That's all they had to do here. And it just, people shouldn't have to keep putting up with this stuff. That's my mild.
DJI, my baby.
Okay.
DJI, my baby.
Better way. What if Google takes out the DJI apps from the Play Store?
They should.
They
should do it now.
Yeah. And what would happen?
No, well, it won't affect existing users because once the app is on your device, you can still use it anyway. So it would prevent
Google has the right to eliminate apps from your phone, as you might know.
Yeah, they can. If they did that, then it gives DJI.
Does the iPhone have an app? And if so, what is the Apple? Is it the same problem? What?
No, Apple, to be fair, and this is part of the problem with Android, is Android doesn't do the same level of checks, as my understanding, as Apple. Dig far more into it. But then the JHooks issue, which is 2.5 years old, was actually on iOS. So they have been caught playing with this before. And it's similar stuff. Backdoor updates to the apps. And the concerning one is they could have targeted a user to download an app to that person based on their DJI account, and that person would only have had a pop-up on their device that said there's an update available. It would not have even shown them the permissions required on the Android operating system to install that app. So you know when you normally install, it says you need this. This method they showed bypassed all of those permissions, and it's dodgy ground.
So does this mean I have to carry my desktop PC out there in a generator if I want to fly my drone? Yeah, it's terrible.
Normal users, this really isn't a big problem. But what it is it's a lack of trust. It's a taking away of trust again. And if they're going to stand there and pretend to be clean, not having issues, they need to take it more seriously.
So Autel and Skydio and Parrot were right. Oh my God.
I know, it should be added. Like again, no one has proven in this that data is being stolen. There's nothing to say data is being taken.
In this one,
yes. In this, I am to be clear on
that.
Start
dancing shoes on, boys. Dancing shoes on now. We can't be a bit careful. Dancing shoes. Seen Kevin's latest track down? The what's it called? Sentinel and Supervisor. That's what he's after now. That's apparently what the gig is.
Extremely frustrating, and I won't go into it, but there are I've had some involvement in various things, and there are people who are banging their heads against the wall who've been predicting this for years, yet the same things keep happening.
Yeah, there's a reason we actually build the images for our HearLinks here in Geelong. So when you update your HearLink, the software comes from my office. Now the actual server is a AWS because unfortunately the Australian good old national broadband is crap. So serving it.
Is broadband a euphemism?
Pretty much. We call it the NBN, but I'm on I think 35 megabit, and that's considered high speed. So
the last mile's made of cardboard, isn't it?
The last mile is made of the original old copper. With I've counted between my house and the fiber to the node, 1.5 kilometers away, has 17 junctions in it.
There's no.
It's so nice being in New Zealand. The fibre stops 2 feet from my left knee.
Yeah, but New Zealand, 4 kilometres of fibre for the whole country.
Oh, 1 gigabit. I'm a gigabit connection. It's great.
We can get gigabit if we want to. It's $799 a month, and I have to pay $100 $100,000 for them to run that 500 meters to the next pit.
$70 a month here, all you can eat.
It is interesting, it's Philip said about doing it over the, I think, I've probably made more content on DJI than most channels. It's not that I don't like the products. I love the products, but it's frustrating when you have users having to do the same issues with the same things. And they need to change. They have to change what they're doing, or there's competition now, and 3DR was competition, but I still think it was the wrong time, and we all know some of the reasons behind it. I think if it was today, it would be a very different story as well. But now there is very real, credible competition for the industrial as well as the enterprise market, and if they're not careful, we've all seen very big companies fall. No one stands at the top forever. It's as simple as that.
Hang on, I'm gonna be devil's advocate here for a moment. You know how we like to criticize the public for saying, "Oh, drones are spying on me. Drones are spying on me." Well, DJI has the potential to spy. The DJI has the potential to spy on us through the app. But what really makes us think we're worth spying on? What are we doing that's so interesting? Nothing. I mean, so we can't really be sort of too hypocritical here.
That comment's valid to a certain point, but as an example, the Australian Army owns I don't know how many DJI drones. I mean, I mightn't be worth spying on, but others are. So the backdoors are relevant. And one thing I will say, obviously, we have an obviously Android device in our HearLink. I'm not going to be stupid enough to go up there and say that there is no way that there's not some loophole that we're not aware of within, Android that could be used for a negative reason within our device. But what we will say is, please find it and tell us.
The military shouldn't be using commercial spec stuff. It should be mil spec. It should be vetted and things. Like they use Windows on US warships and they get blue screens of death in the middle of battle. I mean, no, you should be using the right tool for the job, shouldn't you?
But this is with yes and no, Bruce. I was reading an article today about the F-18 readiness program within the US Navy. They've just, in the last couple of years, moved from 50% readiness to 80% readiness because General Electric were making the power supply unit for the FA-18 Super Hornets and Growlers that they were producing at 3 per month. And they needed 200 of these things, and they needed committee after committee after committee to build more than 3 per month. I'm sorry, I don't know what this PSU's got in it in today's technology that they can only build 3 per month. They must be manually soldering together. We actually, mil spec is a joke now, and the military is sick of it. The military is using off-the-shelf stuff because off-the-shelf stuff's better.
And this was the concern with this vulnerability. And again, there's nothing to say any of this has been done, but here is a hypothetical. You have a bunch of drones registered with certain email addresses. DJI potentially had the ability to target those email addresses with specific apps. And that is the real concern here because of the backdoor update process. This app is the Go 4 app, which is the most public app, which is for the Inspire 2, Mavic 2 series, Mavic 1 series, everything apart from the very latest drones, but the most widely sold drones. And whilst DJI can sit there and say these are consumer drones, it's consumers, and they did throw that in there as a little bit of a getaway. We all know that organizations, governments, and militaries are using COTS equipment because it's A, cheap, B, ridiculously capable, and it's binnable as well. The reality is they can fly something that costs $1,500, and if it falls into the ground at the end of the mission, then so be it. But the risk with that is this email address. All they would actually have to do is target specific email addresses. And suddenly those guys get a special update. They're not to know any different. And then suddenly, there's a potential problem. And again, none of this has actually happened. Nothing is to say DJI would do this. But the fact there is a method which is in place in the app to do this is highly concerning.
Sorry, Ian, you say nothing has already happened. We cannot be sure, as we cannot be sure that other loopholes exist on the apps.
No.
Even and for instance, if we go back and pull this to the Huawei discussion, it can even be lower than the software stack. It can be on the hardware stack. So it is always a big problem. That is why the US has imposed those restrictions of the US manufacturers, and you have to have, and I think Philip will agree with me, you have to have a certain percentage of non-Chinese components to be on US.
Can I make a comment on that one? And I hope someone listens.
Unlikely on this.
It doesn't matter where something is built to be able to put something nasty on it. Like, I know there's pressure on making things in America. Like, we make the blue cube, and if someone wants to pay twice as much for a cube to get exactly the same as what's made in Taiwan, then good on them. But I don't encourage anyone to buy a blue cube when they can get a black cube or an orange cube, which is more capable, at a much cheaper price, and put 100% open source software on it. You can completely blank the whole system. It's irrelevant to that point. Now, obviously, we don't make any of our autopilots in China, so there would be an advantage for me to say, oh yeah, it shouldn't be made in China, blah, 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 blah. But it's lying. It's false advertising. It's bullcrap. Now, if you're actually making the chip itself in China, then you can actually put very nasty stuff in there. And this is why that communications company is in trouble, because of the low-level stuff that has been found. The Australian government has said, no, not going to happen. The American government said, no, not going to happen. The British government will wake up eventually. That isn't just something to stress about. It's something that is known. And yeah, but when it comes to drone hardware, even, dare I say it, with a DJI, it doesn't take much. And the US Army has done this within the Rogue Squadron. They did a bunch of stuff where they actually added a Mavlink layer to the DJI apps so that they could actually run the drones through this Mavlink layer, so they could verify exactly what was being sent to and from, and only allow it to have that layer of communication and protect it. So there are things that can be done. And I don't say that to encourage the US government to obviously use DJI drones, because, you know, that doesn't help me. But I hate seeing policy that is done from a, you know, knee-jerk reaction. And whether it's, oh, drones are going to kill us or anything from China's bad, they're stupid policies, because it just damages everyone. It doesn't actually help. It doesn't feed innovation. I'm seeing American companies prop up with some pathetic drone attempts, and I'm sorry if any of them are offended, but there are some really dodgy attempts of homemade that just wouldn't have fit in 2008, let alone now. And they're trying to jump onto this bandwagon of grabbing a quick dollar under this, you know, patriotic made in USA, when what the US military actually want is reliable. Yeah.
Yes, well, a lot of them should just say assembled in the USA, because you see no end of stuff. You say, oh, that's that Chinese kit, that's the other Chinese kit, that's a whatever. Yeah. Anyway.
Repackage it and put a different piece of plastic on the outside doesn't suddenly stop spyware working that was embedded in the hardware in the first place. Like,
got to use tinfoil, eh?
Exactly.
Did you notice while he was talking, the sun came up in Australia and he lost all his bit rate and he went all blurry? Dried the string out. That last mile of string dried out.
All the teenagers have woken up and got on Xbox.
Oh yeah.
Well, they're homeschooling at the moment, you know.
Yeah.
I've had some fabulous excuses from the children now with the homeschooling. It's really, really, really good. All the students I teach, they're coming out of them left, right, and centre. It's very, very, very funny.
The modem ate my homework. The router ate my homework.
It is.
But I've got to do it.
It is like that. It's exactly like it's glitching, sir. It's glitching. Your bit rate's low, sir. Your bit rate's low. All that sort of a thing. You know, it's all coming out. I love it.
It's my ping is too high. What are you doing with your internet connection? That's the complaint I get here.
Clever devils. Clever devils. They are clever devils.
Do you get students doing this?
And with that, the internet breaks.
Philip, he's back.
What was it? So what was that, Philip? Do again?
You're more pixelated when you don't move than when you do move. That's quite interesting.
What was that last bit, Philip? You were cut off.
Well, it's cut off. Oh, that was that critical bit of information that I was telling you about our secret new project. Yeah.
Oh, too late. Yeah, too late. It's gone. When it's gone, it's gone. And also the stuff you're talking about batteries falling out of drones back in the day.
Philip, any Huawei and check what Philip said.
Yeah.
No.
It's all transcribed. It's fine. So, Philip, any news on the Here Pro? How long are we talking before that?
Here Pro was almost ready to ship this time last year. I think Louis is going to come up with a pink unicorn comment at some stage soon. He used to always call the Cube the pink unicorn, as we kept promising it and never turned up. But like anything, good things that come to those that wait. We go on the Elon Musk time scale of we promise something's coming and it comes eventually. So Here Pro is coming. They physically exist. The first batch has been built for 6 months now, but we are trying to optimize a few things, and some things have gone to plan and some things haven't, and we're nearly there. But yeah, we don't like to release something if it's going to give us any grief whatsoever. Red Cube, yeah, that
doesn't show the blood.
That one actually is a pink unicorn. I like the Red Cube. One day. We are going to release a new cube probably sometime towards the end of next year. I can give you a heads up. It's going to be worth its weight in gold. So
silver cube. Excellent. It's a tin foil.
Sure it is. Yeah.
What about something special in orange? Anything special coming in orange?
Yeah, we have the Orange Pro coming, which I think
the new black.
We've already said that. Yeah, orange is the new black. We have worked out that we are allowed to say that. It's only trademarked within film and music, not autopilots.
Of course, you have to work that sort of stuff out. It's crazy.
I spend more time looking at legal crap these days than engineering, unfortunately. But yeah.
Well, I don't know if you guys to the FAA for me. Could you just chat to the FAA about this sort of thing that they might want to know.
Well, I don't know how many people know this, but the original Mavic was Maverick, and there are test models that exist, but DJI had to change the name because is it the bike manufacturer? I think it's the push bike manufacturer.
Okay.
And yeah, but the original aircraft, there's so many of them out there which are labeled Maverick, not Mavic, but they had to change it. So
there was a question just popped up: patch or helical? The answer is yes.
Notice that DJI use helicals on their industrial grade multi-rotors because you will actually get a better axial ratio from a helical antenna, so it'll be less affected by reflections in the environment. Except
that you get a lower angle as well, which means you get other.
You don't do so many flips and rolls in a matrice.
Yeah, I mean, if you're flying a 3D helicopter and you want to maintain GPS, then a helical, absolutely. If you're flying a survey aircraft, then look, it's an endless discussion based on exactly what suits you. The Here Pro has a patch in it. It's a complete dedicated new patch that we have worked on with an antenna company. It's custom, blah 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 blah. It's taken a lot longer than we hoped it would. It uses special materials because it would weigh way too much if we used the old ceramic. blah, 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 blah. It's a complex area, and there is no one solution that just is, hey, this is better. There will be applications where our patch on the Here Pro is not what suits that particular application. Here Pro version 1 will only come as a patch. There will be a second version eventually that will allow you to put a helical of sorts on. But for 90% of the applications that we see, the patch gives the results that are necessary for good mapping.
What's interesting is that, you used to have like old coal-powered GPS like Gary's got there, and they'd get like 8 or 9 satellites. But some of these little ones, like the BN220s, the 180s, I'm getting like 16, 17 satellites. Admittedly, there's another cluster, but they seem to work really well. Tiny little patch. It's amazing how much they can get with the advances in the receiver technology. One
thing to watch on the number of satellites, we have a constant thing of people comparing our GPSs and saying you don't get as many satellites as other people. And that's quite simply because we set the angle mask correctly, which stops us getting a number of satellites that are not useful for navigation. As you move forward, I mean, on the Here Pro, we've got L1, L2, G1, G2, E1, E2, E5B, blah, blah, blah. We've got 5 different navigation constellations that could be potentially used. And you end up with so many satellites. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you get a better fix. There's still notes in the M8 documentation that talks about GLONASS and the reason that GLONASS is included. And GLONASS can be used where legislated. It's not about accuracy necessarily. Now, there are some situations where using GPS and GLONASS does give you a better result, but there are situations where you're better off just using GPS. You're better to use GPS and Galileo, or you're better to use GPS and Baidu. The question isn't simply, let's turn it all on and get 500 satellites, because that doesn't actually necessarily mean better.
Yeah, more doesn't mean more. I was just searching around for my beloved EM406, which I seem to have lost.
We thought you were building a boat. There's so much noise.
But then, But then here's for GPS nerds. Anyone guess what that one is? This is a rare one. This is a collector's edition one. This is one of only a few made. Penny black, exactly. Is that a GPS?
The
CC3D type, yeah.
Yeah, open pilot. The first one.
With the battery is bigger than the antenna.
Yeah, it was open pilot into this. Angus Pert, who basically founded Open Pilot, he when I started in this, I said, what should I get? And he said, definitely not Open Pilot. Go with ArduPilot.
Yeah, that's right.
Couldn't argue with the founder better than that. So,
remember those? This whole thing.
Oh, watch out for venomous spiders, Gary.
Yeah, I've got the worst one here somewhere. Funny you should say that. Here's the worst one. There's the worst one that ever came out of that stable.
Got the key? You got the key for winding that up, or what?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, look, and guess the cockpit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all got that one. I love GPSs. I just the whole idea that you can, but then I am easily pleased, I suppose. You can just put this thing on and then you can see the satellites in the sky. It's extraordinary. It's absolutely extraordinary. It's like magic. And surely the real answer isn't helical or patch, but largest.
No,
not largest.
Not largest.
No. Too much game.
We had a big debate, obviously, back at 3DR days, what size to make the GPS. And, we came up with this size. It was between this, which is a 6 centimetre ground plane, and 8 centimetre ground plane. Ideal is around an 8 centimetre ground plane. But the benefits really start flattening off at around 6 centimetres, 8, and then this plateau. Where you get your big surveying ones, that's not actually the antenna. That's a choke ring. That's important and can add significant precision to it, but it's actually not the antenna itself. accessory ground plane fancy.
So there you go, Bruce. Size isn't everything. Remember that when you're inside. That'll be
Tell
an
my wife
important
that she
thing.
doesn't agree.
Yeah. Tow glass has been mentioned in the comments. You have had tow glass before, haven't you, Philip?
We love tow glass. So
Yeah.
yes, our new antenna is a collaboration between us and tow glass.
That one says tow glass on it. So
Our next one doesn't say tow glass on it. It says it's got all of our blurbs all over it. Not that you can see it because it'll be inside a sealed case, but anyway.
Not completely sealed though, eh?
The Here Pro will be the first version of the Here Pro that'll come out. The alpha version is not waterproof. It will actually come with the cover removable, so everyone can see the goodies inside. The second version of the Here Pro, when it eventually comes out, will be 100% sealed from the factory. If you pull it to bits, it will never basically go back together the same way again.
Can't you just dunk it in liquid tape?
That actually is probably the best thing to do if you've got a Here 3 and you really want it to be waterproof. There's nothing wrong with giving it a dunking, and you can do that. Yes.
you heard it here live. You heard it here live. So, gentlemen, have we come to the end of the road? Our GPS special GPS edition, or so it would seem. What other stories? What other stories have we seen this week? I did. Did I shout out? I did put them up here. Let me. Oh,
did we talk counter UAS online, or was that when we were live, or was that before we started rambling? I mean, go live.
What particular thing did you want to say? What thing are we talking about?
Oh, we were just talking about GPSs and...
Yeah, I think we did at the start. I think that was at the start.
That was at the start, was it? Okay, that's right.
We're all so old and we have all dementia. We can't remember what happened 5 minutes ago. What did you have for breakfast?
What are we doing? Yeah, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
I watched some old guy reviewing 2 radios this week, which is well worth a look.
He did mention you.
I couldn't remember the name, though. But it's
dementia.
It's dementia. But now Bruce did do his review, a good video actually, if you're interested, looking between the jumper and the Radio Master. It's Parrot have said they're out of the consumer drone industry,
yes.
Gary?
They have. I wanted to, we'll talk about that in a second. I just wanted, as I flash this up, I wanted to just shout out this lot just for a simple act in there. So they've flown there, what is, and they tell us, inspired by Canada's pioneering work 50 years ago with the CL-84. They tell us what it is. Very unusual in this trade for a company to hat tip to somebody else and not say, our new modern, we've just invented it first. No one's ever thought about it. No one's ever done it. Very, very unusual. So straight away, to me anyway, I put this company in, I'll keep watching them category. Whereas if I see a completely nonsense-filled press release, then I put that company on watch them to see what they're really up to. So and that's how it works at SUS News, the viewers. If you want to get into SUS News, just tell us something interesting and you'll get us in. And you'll also get in for being bull dust, but we'll keep an eye on you if you do that. And Ian, yes, sorry. You and transparent case is being asked in the comments for Philip. Let's go to that first. Transparent case.
The Hip Pro version 1 will have a transparent case, but that's not transparent. But the lights are, as you might be able to tell by the fact that there's light going through all the way through. This one is lacking a circuit board.
It's full of stars.
Unfortunately, I don't actually have a real Gear 3 yet. I've got all the...
Bloody vaporware strikes again.
There we are. Yeah, this is going to be showing us only renderings. There's going to be renderings only.
This is really good CGI if that's a rendering.
Can we print our own? You got an STL file for that?
There is actually an STL file coming for our new mounting section, which I don't know if you can see there. There's 2 little holes in the middle here which are new. That a thing will be able to lock in there and screw down to here. So we're going to supply an STL for that, and we are actually going to eventually make stands that have lovely little aerofoil carbon fiber little stands. we will
Bling. Getting into the model car market there. Into the model car market. Ian, back of your head. Ian, yes, you. I'm talking to you.
Ian.
Talking to you, Ian. Now pay attention. That's better.
Class is not yet out.
Parrot.
A parrot.
Was it? No more in the consumer drone industry. That's about it for that.
And there we are.
It's actually sort of sad. I mean, Parrot, credit where credit's due. They're the ones that really brought drones to the consumer industry in the first place. They've been part of this industry for a long time. They've even had autopilot running on a bunch of their consumer drones, which is really cool. Yep. The fact that they would allow dual boot to autopilot and allow people to hack their stuff was awesome. They've done some really good stuff for the industry.
They have.
But they are French, aren't they?
Yeah.
And we can't hold that against them.
I believe they
Remember
are.
the EU?
I'm not sure if we're allowed to these days.
But his daughter's a Bond girl, so does that then make up for that?
I think Bond's not woke enough because it's too misogynistic.
Yeah.
Fair. Yeah, I'm beyond that as well. No, they're fantastic, and I got to say that because he spoke to me about the new product, which was amazing, and he was on again. He was just honest and told me what's what, and people have asked me if that was a scripted conversation, if he had the questions, and they were plainly people that have never watched this channel, because then they would realize that nothing is scripted.
I'm always nervous on this because you don't know. There could be a question and the answer could be, crap, I don't really like what I'm about to say, and Gary's got me on the spot, and oh well.
The only consistency and common theme is Ian's chair.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's the theme that runs through the whole thing. It's expensive. Oh, he nearly did. No,
you can't afford the chair anymore. Yeah, you can't afford the chair for the rest of this video. Sorry. Sorry.
He's doing so well.
Fee, Gary?
He's doing so well out of that chair. He can have more than one chair in his room. Who can have more than one chair in their office? I ask you.
Well, two people do sit in here at times, so unfortunately, it does require hot seating.
He's got staff. He's got staff for his channel and everything. And thank you very much for those that subscribe. We have gone over 10K, which is it's only taken 10 years, 11 years, whatever it was. plodding on. But look, I think it might be time to call an end to this because I don't think we've got any more stories. Any more, gentlemen? Going once, going twice. Dear viewers, wherever you might be in the world, be safe. Thank you very, very much for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Philip, thank you very much for coming along and putting up with us as ever.
Wrong side.
I know. Always do.
It's not like Google; it doesn't switch it round.
Louis, I don't know if Louis is frozen there or he's just playing concentration. Okay.
Run out of cigarettes.
Yeah, Ian and Louis, thanks very much.
Ian coughed.
And coughing.
Yeah, well,
COVID, I'm dead. I'll be dead by tomorrow.
It's all right. We've got an animation in here now.
No one will know.
It's just Blender. It's Blender.
Blended. And Bruce, you're the current state of play for yourself and your prison time is
still free man, still sitting on someone's desk, still waiting for someone to put the coffee down and wipe the crumbs off the table and move my little thing over to the middle thing where it'll be addressed in the fullness of time, I suspect. I might even be posthumously interred at Her Majesty's pleasure.
Have you asked for an update on your complaint, Gary? See if you can rush it along.
Oh, God, no. That'll never come. I can't remember the last time. What's the last time I had cause to talk to that aviation authority was about the flight test centres in the north of your island, and I can't remember what that was about.
Open Skies, something was it?
Open Skies. There was something about that, and there was a question about them, and is that all gone now? Is that game over gone?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about it for a long time, but I think nobody used it, so and the people with the Aero Club up there were complaining that it was infringing on their freedoms, and I haven't really checked.
Yeah, there was something like.
Is that app to get permission to fly?
No, it was an area that was declared for UAV use or drone use. So it was they were going to run a commercial operation. You could come in, you could set up and fly and things, and stay in a tent at the local marae. I think it just didn't work out. I don't think.
No, it was a long way away, wasn't it, by road or something from everywhere, and then this, that, and all the others. So that was the last
covered wagon. This is
covered wagon. Yeah, of course. Same here. Oh, before we go, I know you're all worried about. Oh, actually, you go first, Louis, and then I'll do mine.
How are all the Freedom of Information Acts requests that you guys have been going back and forth?
Which ones?
Anyone? Come on, no news. Come on, you guys go all the way. I want the Freedom of Information Act for the Information Act for that. This guy wants Freedom of Information Act on chairs and 5G towers. Come on, we want to know.
I've got one in for the current cost of the Gatwick thing. That'll come, I'm sure. They're good people. Other Ian has several interesting ones in. There's some interesting ones coming from other Ian. And in America, I think our longest outstanding one's about 8 years old now. They never come. You can never get them. So Patrick's
they must have much bigger discs than the CIA then to have all that stuff on them.
Well, I was thinking that might actually be a function of too much coffee and biscuits there. Because if he's having too much, he's doing well on coffee and biscuits and he hasn't got time to get to it. So
coffee coma is a
coffee coma, it could be a function of catering. That could be your hold up. It could be catering. And I was just going to say update because I know Ian had a pop at me about we can't buy alcohol in South Africa still, and we still can't. And the new regulations perhaps coming out, and they're running through it now. They're mulling it over. Should you want to buy alcohol, they'll open it up, but you have to go to the police station, and you have to go and get a license to allows you to buy alcohol, and then produce that at whatever place you purchase the alcohol. So that's the current.
Still easier than flying a drone, though, isn't it, in South Africa? You gave me an idea.
That is actually true, yes.
I think I will do an official Information Act request for the CIA to find out how much they spend on coffee and biscuits every year.
Yeah, I think if you look into it, I think
bottled water. Trust me on that one.
And then
you've been in the office recently checking on your complaint, have you?
No. We had it at a local council. Someone did a Freedom of Information request on bottled water, and it was frankly astonishing how much money was spent on bottled water.
And the
taps don't work there.
This has definitely deteriorated. Yeah,
I'd be very interested to see the violence level in Australia versus the current issues that are going on in the US if the Australian government was to ban the sale of alcohol. I just can't imagine Australia operating with the pubs. Well, I mean, the pubs have been closed. That's been tough. But the bottle shops have been doing a roaring trade. So,
Yeah, my wife's been down in a bottle of wine a night, so she's keeping the UK wine trade going ever since this started.
If I was your wife, I'd do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. There's other she was doing that before this started. Yeah. It's having knock-on effects. Things like the glass industry is close to collapse here for all the bottles and in the beer.
Well, they're not throwing them at each other now, are they? And stuff. They used to.
Doing a roaring trade for all the moonshine that's being made. Or they recycle?
It's always been illegal to home brew here. Always.
Yeah, that's moonshine.
But it's not. It's not. It's lacking the mainstream infrastructure is sort of lacking. Plenty of people have passed away due to homemade alcohol poisoning in the last 3 months. That has occurred from your time in Tanzania and in Kenya. You might remember Kumi, the thing that did the same up there every Christmas.
Lovely home brews with battery acid and all sorts of stuff.
Exactly. Just that little bit of extra zing that's required. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Of course, the big thing people have started drinking is hand sanitizer because it does contain the word alcohol. So yeah,
we are laughing, but a couple of years ago in Brazil, they had the gasoline that was added, cane alcohol added. So it was a big problem in Brazil. People drinking the alcohol from the gasoline. So
well, they have E85 in the USA. But if you want free booze, go in and say you've been drinking meths or methyl alcohol, because the antidote for that is ethanol. It binds with the receptor so you don't go blind and die. So you get free drink at the hospital. It's great.
That's a complex way of doing it, isn't it?
Are you saying I shouldn't be doing that?
Is that inside? Is that prison? Prison.
Bruce and myself have free healthcare. So
yeah.
Free alcohol.
Well, that's part of the reason that of course they went to, and the smoking ban as well. The smoking ban's the one that's actually been more controversial. I don't smoke, and people have been going doolally. But the interesting thing is the price of cigarettes has just black market cigarettes is actually about equivalent to what a box of cigarettes is in the UK anyway. Cigarettes were so cheap here, so cheap that.
What about condoms, Gary? What's the black market on condoms like now? Is that
they were banned. They were banned.
Yep.
Part of the lockdown. They were banned because, of course, if you were having to use those, then social distancing was not occurring. So they were banned, and also
there was a rash of bicycle theft and slashed tires.
But and then also when it went on our first round of lockdowns, things like so you go into the shop, nappies, anything deemed non-essential you weren't allowed to buy. So nappies, children's clothing, CDs, papers. The only things you could buy were your basic foodstuffs, and that was that. So that relaxed pretty quickly. We had our first alcohol ban when it started. We had 2 weeks back where you could buy alcohol, and last week or the week before they banned it again. But for a long time, our COVID death rate, the murder rate dropped so much that it was our death rate over the days actually reduced, even with the human malware situation. Unfortunately, it is beginning to go up a little bit now, but it's still nothing like it's been overseas. But so it's had a big effect on crime. So I can imagine that we will be. So you're thinking about coming to South Africa on holiday. The several things you'll need. One will be condoms. Another one will be alcohol. Although you can't actually be caught with it. You can't be caught with it in your car. You can't. I'm ranting a bit about it, aren't I? And all that sort of thing. And then bring your own electricity. We're not very good at having electricity either. So bring a box of electricity. That's a good idea as well. And yesterday we had 12 hours without internet. So you might want to bring some internet as well. So bring a can of internet, a box of electricity, some alcohol, and whatever he's wearing. What is he wearing?
Yes, it's Kevlar jumpsuit.
Kevlar.
We have managed to sink right into the weird zone, haven't we, this time?
Add a tinfoil hat to that, and you've got a real fashion accessory there.
That's good, isn't it? The Kevlar shawl.
Kevlar shawl.
And it doubles up as a mask.
Do you guys have masks?
Hey, that would look nice on your chair, Ian.
Yeah, that's the place to put that.
Can't afford to talk about my chair anymore, Bruce.
Your battery's gone flat in your microphone now.
No, he's got it. He's got his microphone.
It's up there. Can't afford to talk about the chair anymore, Bruce. The chair, we've blown the chair budget for today, so Gary only gets 10 credits for the chair.
Oh no!
In fact, what I'm going to do next week, I'm going to set up a separate camera for the chair. We'll invite it on as a guest.
More heads, that's for sure.
I'm surprised YouTube hasn't shut the stream down. Hey, this is going out on LinkedIn, isn't it? So all the professionals will be chortling away.
Oh, it's on LinkedIn. Oh dear.
Hang on, what else? I think we put on Periscope as well.
Oh, we don't want to see you. We don't want to see your stool.
No, sorry, he beat me to it. He beat me to it. That's his sample, isn't it? That's his stool sample. I've got a brown stool here somewhere. Anyway, moving on swiftly.
Too much information.
Too much information. I keep it by my side at all times. Right, time to go. Philip, thank you very much indeed. Louis, Ian, Bruce, dear viewers, wherever you are in the world, we are going this time. Look after yourselves. Be safe. If you can go flying, go flying. But yeah, just be careful wherever you are. See you all again, 2100 GMT next week. Cheers. Yeah, mask and time. Cheers all. Bye-bye. Yeah. 2 buttons of click. Here's the first one. And